There's a moment when a man just knows. Doesn't need evidence. Doesn't need a confession. Doesn't even need to hear his name mangled by some stranger's mouth. It's like your gut has its own set of eyes, and one day, they open. Wide. Mine opened on a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. Nobody expects betrayal on a weekday you still owe 3 meetings to. But there it was waiting like bad news in an inbox. My son, 10 years old and curious as ever, had found the old photo album while cleaning out the storage cabinet in the hallway. He was on a mission, as he called it. I was proud of that. Still am. "Dad, what's this one?" he asked, holding out a thick blue album with the gold trim fraying at the edges, our family's personal time machine. That album, man, I hadn't seen it in years. I used to flip through it when he was a toddler, back when things still made sense, and I thought my wife's smile in those pictures meant something. It was full of baby teeth grins, first day of school backpacks, and chocolate cake chaos smeared across chubby cheeks. Pure gold. We sat down on the carpet and started leafing through it. Him pointing at pictures, me narrating the moments like some ancient historian. Then he got bored around page 30 and ran off to chase something digital. That's when I noticed it, pages stuck together near the back. Not the kind of sticky you get from Jelly Fingers. The kind that means keep out. Curiosity, meet destruction. I peeled them apart, expecting maybe a forgotten birthday card or some tucked-away Polaroid. What I found instead were letters, handwritten, folded with care, like some twisted love origami. And everyone was addressed not to me, but to her. My wife. My partner of 15 years. The mother of my child. My supposed best friend. The first letter started with, "Last night was electric." The last one ended with, "Soon, you won't need to pretend anymore." And there it was. Truth, in cursive. Tucked between a picture of our son riding a tricycle and a shot of me grilling burgers at his 3rd birthday party. You want irony? There it is. She hid betrayal inside the story of our son's life. And the worst part? She didn't even bother hiding it well. That photo album, it wasn't locked in a safe. It wasn't under a bed. It was on the same shelf as our wedding album. Like the betrayal was part of the archive. I sat there on the floor for a long time, staring at the evidence of a love story rewritten behind my back. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That came later. First came something else. Clarity. See, when a man's heart breaks, it doesn't shatter, it sharpens. And mine? It was beginning to cut through all the fog. I didn't confront her that night. No, I sat at the dining table, sipping cold coffee and staring at her framed photo on the mantel like it was some kind of mugshot from a spiritual crime scene. The photo was taken on our 10th anniversary. We were in Maine. She had just stolen one of my fries and smiled like she still liked me. I remember thinking how lucky I was in that moment. Turns out, I was about as lucky as a goldfish at a sushi bar. I kept the letters. All of them. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just started reading. I treated them like a study, like I was preparing for a final exam called Why Your Marriage Meant Nothing. They spanned almost a year. 1 or 2 a month. Sometimes more, when the guilt must have flared up and needed airing out. There was a pattern to them. They always came after we had a fight, or after she came home late from a meeting, or when our son and I were out of town visiting my folks. Real brave, that one. Hiding behind a kid's laughter and a husband's loyalty. Her handwriting was neat, consistent. The way you'd write a thank you card to someone you didn't really know but wanted to impress. When you touch me, I feel alive again. He doesn't see me anymore. I wish I'd met you first. That last one got me. It made me wonder, what exactly was I to her? A placeholder? A warm body? A retirement plan in khakis? I looked around the room and suddenly everything felt staged. The bookshelf she'd decorated, the throw pillows she arranged just so, all of it screamed presentation, not partnership. And that night, when she came home, she kissed me on the forehead like a hospice nurse, then went upstairs to rest. I just sat there. That's when I started planning. Not revenge, not yet. First, the new album. I pulled out an empty leather-bound book I'd bought on a whim at a yard sale 3 years ago. It had dust on it, like it was waiting for purpose. Page 1. A picture of me and my son, holding hands at the county fair, before he rode the tilt-a-whirl and hurled pink lemonade all over my shirt. He laughed so hard he hiccuped. That photo? That one was real. The new album would be our story, his and mine. No lies. No lipstick over guilt. No stranger's handwriting between the pages. Just truth. Ugly, raw, honest truth. Because one day, when my boy grows up, he'll ask me what happened. And I won't poison him with bitterness. I won't badmouth his mother. But I'll open that new album and say, This is what is left real. It was a Saturday, one of those suspiciously perfect ones. The sky couldn't make up its mind between blue and silver, and the breeze smelled like summer nostalgia. We had planned to go through old boxes in the attic. Some family spring cleaning, she said. Ironic, really. Trying to dust off the past when the present was already rotting. She had her hair pulled back, wearing the t-shirt I got her in Cape Cod. I remember because she wore it the day our son was born. Back then it smelled like hope and baby powder. Now it just smelled like a memory I couldn't trust. She was sorting through boxes labeled keepsakes. Her hands moved with a kind of nervous precision. I stayed quiet. Let her swim in her own routine. My son had gone out back to play with the neighbor's kid, which was good. What came next wasn't for young eyes. Where's the album? I asked. She froze. Not dramatically, just a microsecond pause. But when you know someone for 15 years, that pause is a confession. What album? She asked, already failing the test. You know the one. Blue cover, gold trim. The one with Jack's baby pictures. Oh, she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Must be in the closet. I haven't seen it in years. Funny, I thought. That's exactly where I found it. I handed her the stack of letters. Just like that. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just truth, on paper, laid out like a final report card. She didn't even look surprised. That was the insult. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. Not the fact that she hid another man's affection between pictures of our son's first steps. No, what gutted me was the calm. Like she'd already prepared her speech in the mirror 100 times. She sat down on the edge of a box labeled Christmas 2014 and exhaled like she'd just finished holding her breath for a decade. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. The first lie of the afternoon. How long? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Not for her. For me. About a year. And there it was. The full stop on a 15-year sentence. I nodded. Said nothing. Just looked at her like a stranger I once saw in a dream. You've been distant, she added, like my loyalty had caused her infidelity. We stopped connecting. I smiled. Not the friendly kind. The kind that happens when you finally understand how low some people will dig just to bury your name next to their excuses. Did you love him? I asked. Silence. Then, it was different. Which means yes. And worse. I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry. I stood, walked to the closet, and pulled out the new album, the one she didn't know existed. I'm making a new one, I said. Just for Jack. One that doesn't have footnotes written by your lover. She reached for me. I stepped back like her touch was made of fire and fraud. We can fix this, she said. No, I replied. You broke something that doesn't glue. You cut open something that only scars. And scars don't love back. That was the last sentence I spoke to her as her husband. People talk a lot about breaking points. Like they come loud, with screaming and shattered plates, dramatic exits, and thunderclaps of closure. Mine came in silence. On a Tuesday, while folding laundry, I had just picked up one of Jack's old t-shirts, the tiny navy one with the dinosaur on it. The tag still had my scribbled handwriting. 3T favorite. It was one of those shirts that had seen 100 hugs, a few juice stains, and more giggles than I deserved. I held it in my hands and realized something that I think men don't admit enough. I missed my family, but not the lie it had become. See, grief is a shapeshifter. It starts off as sadness, but if you give it time and a bit of dignity, it hardens into focus. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready, not to scream, not to break things, but to start the long, methodical demolition of the life I had been tricked into protecting. I started with the bank accounts. Now, she had no idea that I'd already moved half the money into a trust for Jack. She thought I'd sit around like a dog waiting for scraps of her explanations. Cute. But I had been quietly untangling our financial roots for weeks, ever since I found the letters. It's amazing how fast a man can learn to read legal fine print when heartbreak is your study partner. She'd always handled the bills, the mortgage, the budgeting. At the time, I thought it was teamwork. Now I know it was a firewall. She was the castle. I was the moat, full of blind trust and good intentions. But I was done playing the fool in this fairy tale. The next step was the house. And let me tell you, there is no revenge more satisfying than letting someone pack their things under the watchful eye of a court-appointed moving deadline. I wasn't cruel. I didn't throw her out. I gave her 30 days. But every day, I made sure the energy in that house reminded her of what she'd gutted. The silence? Palpable. The family photos? Gone. The laughter? Moved out. She tried small talk. She tried guilt. She even tried pity. I never meant to fall out of love with you, she said once while packing up her scarves. I nodded. Good thing I've never fallen in love with who you really are. That one landed. Hard. But look, this wasn't about being spiteful. This was about clarity. I didn't scream. I didn't badmouth her to Jack. I didn't even stop her from seeing him. She could still play the role of mom if she could keep a straight face long enough to do it. I just made sure she knew that whatever script she was reading from, I'd burned my copy. And that brings me to the moment I started building the new album. The one that mattered. I didn't fill it with holidays and posed smiles. No, this one was different. Raw. Honest. Every photo had a date, a location, and a line of truth beneath it. Jack and I fishing at Silver Lake? Your first catch. You named him Carl. We let him go. Our backyard camping night when it rained and we ended up in the living room? You said lightning was just sky sneezes. The time I taught him how to ride a bike, and he crashed into the rose bush? You cried. I didn't, but I wanted to. Every page of that album was a stake in the ground. A map of a life still real. Still breathing. Still mine. She wasn't in it. Not because I wanted to erase her, but because she had already erased herself. One night, Jack sat beside me while I was adding to it. He looked at the blank pages near the end and asked, "What goes there, Dad?" I looked at him and smiled. "Whatever we make next, kiddo." I'm not sure he fully understood, but he smiled back and nodded like it made perfect sense. Maybe it did. Kids have a way of seeing truth faster than we do. Now, about the man she cheated with. Ah, yes. Mr. Mysterious. I'd never met him face to face. He was a shadow. A signature at the end of a letter. A scent on a scarf that didn't belong to me. I knew his name barely. Knew where he worked. Knew what gym he went to. I did my homework. I wasn't in a hurry. Revenge, when rushed, is just emotional graffiti. I wanted calligraphy. I waited until he got promoted. It was a big deal. I know because he updated his LinkedIn profile the same day. And I knew that because I created a fake account 6 months prior and connected with him under the name Cal. Funny how eager people are to brag to strangers. His firm posted a company-wide email celebrating the promotion. I waited 2 weeks. Let the dust settle. Let his pride inflate. Then I sent every letter scanned, sorted, dated to his boss. BCC'd his HR department. Subject line? Just thought you should know who represents your company after hours. But I didn't stop there. I printed the letters, bound them, mailed them, anonymously, to his wife. She responded with a handwritten card. Simple, elegant, just 4 words. Thank you for everything. And the final touch? I left one of the letters, just one, on my ex-wife's windshield. The one where he wrote, "You said you'd leave him by summer. Don't make me wait again." Sharp little thing, that one. Like emotional glass. She never mentioned it. But she moved out 3 days early. And just like that, the bridge burned quietly, thoroughly, with no audience but my dignity and a stack of receipts. It had been 6 weeks since she left. The silence she left behind was different now. Not empty clean. Like scrubbing a room down to the floorboards and realizing it still stands strong without the perfume. Jack didn't talk about her much, and I didn't bring her up. Not because I wanted to erase her, but because he didn't deserve the weight of her choices. Kids shouldn't have to carry betrayal in their backpacks between math homework and soccer practice. But kids are sharp. Sharper than we give them credit for. One evening, he came into my office, holding a picture. It was from the old album, the one I thought I'd hidden in the back of my closet, buried under tax folders and the ghost of holidays past. He held it like it was evidence. "Dad," he said, "why isn't Mom in the new album?" I looked at him, not as a child, but as someone standing at the doorway between innocence and the truth. It hurt, the way it does when you realize your kid is growing up because the world didn't give them a choice. "She's part of the old one," I said, simply. He looked down at the photo again. "But we still did all this stuff together. You, me, her. She's not gone. Gone." That word felt heavy in the room. Not dead, just gone. Absented. Self-selected from the credits of the story. "She's not gone," I said. "She's just not in this part anymore." "But why?" he asked. There it was. The fork in the road. Do I lie and spare him? Or do I give him the version of the truth he could carry without it poisoning him? I sat on the edge of my desk, motioned for him to sit next to me. "Your mom," I began slowly, "made some choices that hurt our family. Choices I didn't know about until later. And when I found out, We decided it was better if she didn't live here anymore. His brow furrowed. Did she lie? Yes, I said. And she broke a promise. A big one. He nodded slowly. No tears. No tantrum. Just silence. The kind that means the gears are turning. Is that why you made a new album? I nodded. Yeah. I wanted one that was just ours. Nothing fake. Nothing hidden. He looked down again, then at me. Can I help with it? I smiled. You already are. We spent that night adding 2 more pages to the album. One was the picture of us in the rain at his first Little League game, soaked and grinning like idiots under a broken umbrella. The other was just last week, him building a birdhouse, covered in with glue and explaining to me that robins don't like show-offs, so it has to be simple. Each picture had a caption. His idea. He wrote this one under the birdhouse photo. Built with Dad. We don't know everything, but we try real hard. I excused myself to the bathroom so he wouldn't see me cry. The next week, she called. First time in a month. I stared at the screen, her name sitting there like a dare. Marla. I answered. I'd like to see him, she said, cutting right to it. I'll ask him, I replied. She didn't expect that. You could hear the pause, the sudden lack of control. She was used to bargaining, to navigating emotion like a courtroom. But this wasn't a negotiation. This was fatherhood, and she no longer had visitation rights to my patience. I asked Jack that night. Give him the choice. She wants to see you, I said. Only if you want to. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, can we meet at the park? Smart kid. Neutral ground. Escape routes. Fresh air. Maybe he's got a future in risk management. They met at the park that Saturday. I stayed on a bench not too far away, pretending to read a book while watching like a hawk in a hoodie. She brought him a gift. A book. He accepted it, but didn't smile. They talked for a while. He did most of the listening. She reached for his hand once. He let her, then pulled away. It broke her face for a second, like glass trying not to crack. When it was over, he came back and sat beside me. Was that okay? I asked. He shrugged. She said she's sorry. I nodded. She said she misses us. She probably does, I said. But missing someone doesn't always mean you get them back. He looked up at me. Is that why you didn't take her back? I looked at my son, my honest, clear-eyed boy, and said the truth. She didn't just leave us, Jack. She left who we were. And I couldn't get that back. Not for you. Not for me. He nodded again, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small rock he'd picked up from the playground. Let's add this to the album, he said. The rock. Yeah, it was from today. It happened. It matters. And so we did. I hot-glued the little stone onto a blank page, and under it we wrote. The day she tried. The day we said maybe next time. Because not every chapter needs a hero. Some just need honesty. And sometimes, all you're left with is a memory and a rock, but at least that rock is real. It started with a knock. Not the kind you expect. Not hurried. Not angry. Just polite. 3 short taps, like a doorbell in Morse code. I opened it to find a man standing there, hands in his coat pockets, eyes downcast like a student about to confess to breaking the lab beaker. He looked exactly how I imagined average. Not ugly. Not handsome. Just aggressively forgettable. Are you Rick? He asked, voice tight. I raised an eyebrow. Depends who's asking. He shifted. Cleared his throat. I'm Andrew. He paused. I think we should talk. Ah, I thought. So the pen pal's grown a conscience. I didn't invite him in. Instead, I stepped outside, closed the door gently behind me, and leaned against the porch railing. I'm assuming this is about Marla, I said. He nodded, shame leaking out of him like a slow puncture in a tire. She told me it was over, he started, before you found out. I didn't know. She didn't say you had a kid. If I had known, Stop, I said, holding up a hand. Just stop. He blinked. You're here for closure, or guilt relief, or maybe some scripted apology you practiced in your car. But none of that means anything to me. You were writing love letters and sneaking around with someone else's wife, Andrew. That's not a lapse in judgment. That's a resume. He bit his lip. You're right. Don't agree with me, I said sharply. I'm not here for your redemption arc. He looked genuinely rattled. I don't know. I wanted you to know I regret it. I stared at him. This grown man who had been an invisible force of destruction in my life. No villain cape. No mustache to twirl. Just beige betrayal in human form. You ever see a kid's face when they realize one of their parents isn't who they thought they were? I asked. He didn't answer. Jack's 10. He thinks the world is fair. That promises mean something. You didn't just wreck my marriage, Andrew. You helped rewrite a boy's understanding of love. That landed. He looked down, jaw clenched. She lied to me, too, he muttered. And you happily believed her. Because it made what you were doing easier. He didn't deny it. Smart move. I'm not here to fight you, he said quietly. I just wanted to face you. I stepped in closer. Not aggressive, just so he could hear the weight of what I was about to say. You're lucky I'm not the man I used to be. The man I used to be would have made sure you couldn't write any more letters without using your elbows. His eyes widened. I smiled. But instead, I'm going to do something worse than hurt you. He flinched. I'm going to forget you. That caught him off guard. It always does. See, people like Andrew want to be remembered, even if it's through hate. They want to live rent-free in your head. But me? I had evicted him. Cleared him out. His memory was a photograph I burned so I could warm myself once and be done. I turned and walked back to the door. As I reached for the handle, I paused and looked back. Here's a free life lesson, I said. If you're ever tempted again, just remember this. Every lie you enjoy in secret is a truth someone else has to suffer in public. Then I went inside. Didn't slam the door. Didn't look back. Because some men deserve no curtain call. That night, I added a page to the album. No photo. Just words. The day the shadow knocked. The day I stayed in the light. 3 days later, Jack came home from school holding something behind his back. Don't peek, he warned, eyes bright. He sat me down at the kitchen table and pulled out a sheet of construction paper. Handwritten in red marker was a drawing of 2 stick figures, one tall, one shorter, with a caption beneath. My dad is strong and kind. He didn't yell when everything went bad. He stayed with me. I didn't cry. I didn't. But I stared at that paper like it was a medal of honor, a father's badge of courage, proof that even when your marriage collapses, your legacy can still stand. I put it in the album. Right between our hiking trip and the snowman we built lopsided with a banana for a nose. That night, I got a call from Marla. Straight to voicemail. I didn't listen. The next morning, a message appeared on my doorstep. An envelope, handwritten. No stamp. Inside was a letter from her. I saw him. He said he talked to you. I'm sorry he came. I didn't send him. I just want you to know I've started therapy. I'm trying to understand how I became someone I don't even recognize anymore. I hope one day we can talk, not as enemies, but as 2 people who once loved each other deeply. She signed it with her full name. Not Love Marla. Just Marla Jensen. I folded it up and tucked it in a drawer. Not the trash. Not the fire. Just a drawer. Because some things don't deserve rage. They deserve retirement. That weekend, Jack and I went to the lake. We fished. We laughed. We didn't talk about her. We didn't have to. We were busy making a new memory. One that didn't need editing. One that would go on the next page. Jack brought the album to school. Not because I told him to, but because they were doing a project on what family means to me. And he wanted to share our story. I found out later from his teacher, Mrs. Goodwin, a kind woman with the gentle ferocity of someone who's seen kids carry far more than their weight in silence. She pulled me aside at pickup. Mr. Reeves, she said, Jack brought something very special today. That album, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. He told the class that his family changed, but that it didn't disappear. I felt my throat tighten. He said, she continued, smiling sadly, that this book shows what's still true, even after the sad parts. That night, I asked Jack if it was okay to keep a copy of his project in my desk drawer. You can add it to your pages, he said, but not the sad ones. The ones where we're still doing stuff. I did. I added his speech, handwritten on crumpled paper with misspellings and scribbles, to a page titled, The Chapter We Wrote Ourselves. It had been months since she moved out. She hadn't asked for the album. I don't know if she even knew it existed beyond the day I mentioned it. But one day, out of nowhere, she called and asked for coffee. I met her at a quiet place downtown. Neutral territory. 2 old generals meeting after the war. She looked older. Not aged, just heavier. As if the choices she made had finally reported back to her. I saw Jack's school project, she said softly. I nodded. He was proud of it. You didn't make me the villain. I sipped my coffee. That wasn't my job. I was expecting to be erased. You weren't erased. You just stopped writing. She stared at her cup. I didn't know how to come back from it. You weren't supposed to. That hit. And she nodded, slowly. I've been thinking, she said, about all the things I thought were broken in our marriage. Turns out it was just me. I didn't offer comfort. That part of me had retired. She slid a photo across the table. It was the three of us, from years ago, Jack on my shoulders, her laughing beside us, her hand on my back. I miss what we were. I looked at the picture, then at her. So do I said. But what we were isn't coming back. And neither am I. We sat in silence for a while. Then I stood up, placed the photo back on the table, and left her with it. Some ghosts don't need to be exorcised. They just need to sit quietly with their regrets. On Jack's 11th birthday, I gave him the album. I wrapped it in brown paper with a note. This is not the past. This is proof. He opened it slowly, page by page, tracing the photos with his fingertips. He didn't say much, just smiled at some pages, laughed at others, teared up once at the fishing trip. Then he looked at me. You were always there. I always will be. I want to make my own album one day, he said. I nodded. And you will. Just make sure every page is honest. He sat beside me and leaned his head against my shoulder. Thanks for never lying to me. That night, after he'd gone to bed, I opened the final page of the album. Still blank. I added one more picture, a selfie we'd taken on a hike last summer. My arm around him. His crooked smile. Sunlight behind us. Beneath it, I wrote, "We are still here. Cruel revenge?" It came quietly. Not in the form of screaming matches or courtroom drama. Not through flame or scandal. But in something far more permanent, legacy. She lost her job. Not directly because of me. Word spreads in professional circles. The letters weren't anonymous forever. Her promotion stalled. Clients started asking questions. Eventually, she stepped down to focus on family. Andrew? Last I heard, he moved cities. Tried to reinvent himself. But betrayal follows you like unpaid debt. It shows up in your relationships, in your mirror, in the way people hesitate before trusting you again. As for me, I rebuilt. Not with someone new. Not yet. That'll come when the soil's rich again. Right now, I'm focused on the roots. I bought a cabin near the lake Jack loves. We go there every other weekend. He calls it the real house. Sometimes we fish. Sometimes we just sit. And sometimes, on the good days, we add a new page. The new album is thicker now. Different cover. Leather, this time. Stronger. Weatherproof. At the very end, there's a letter. Not from her. Not from me. From Jack. He wrote it one night while I was asleep. Dad, this book makes me feel safe. I don't care about the bad stuff anymore. I know what's real. And it's us. That, right there, that's revenge. Not loud, but eternal. Because while they spent their time hiding between the pages of an old lie, I built something that'll outlast every single one of them. This is what is left real.